let's go to Ukraine. Ukraine's over here. As you can see, it's quite a big place, and it's actually also known as borderland. And the reason why it's borderland is because it's wedged between Europe and it's wedged between Russia, which is obviously on the east side. The capital of Ukraine is Kiev, where most of these happenings are, well, going on. So Ukraine was part of the USSR, the Union of the Soviet Socialist Republics, and was part of the Soviet Union for 10 years. Now you get certain parts of people that are in the Ukraine. You get 67% who speak Ukrainian, and you get 30% speaking Russian. Now you have to know the presidents of Ukraine. There was Viktor Yanukovych, right, who came from the eastern side of Ukraine, which is closer to Russia. He's more allies with Vladimir Putin. So the history with the presidents is that in 2004, Ukraine had an election with two victors, and literally two victors, Viktor Yushchenko and Viktor Yanukovych. The election caused chaos, and it caused the Orange Revolution from 2004 to 2005. The revolution resulted in a revote where Viktor Yushchenko won. But now let's fast forward, all right, let's not get to the boring things and say in 2010, Yanukovych became president, and what happened? There was trouble, and protests kicked in because Viktor Yanukovych rejected a deal with the European Union, right? Because the Ukraine had a deal for them to join the EU, but instead he accepted a $15 billion bailout in Ukraine from Vladimir Putin, and this has never been accepted by the west side of Ukraine. So what does Russia want? They want Ukraine back. They want Ukraine for themselves because they've got the Black Sea. They've got mineral resources like copper and iron and gas and oil and salt and sulfur and graphite, and is the third biggest exporter of grain. And of course, they give a lot of electricity. So what are the protests now going on is that Ukraine is having an identity crisis. They're being pulled by two sides. They're being pulled by Russia, and they're being pulled by the European Union. And as you know, well, if you don't, but Russia has spent 2.5 centuries trying to make Ukraine more like Russia, all the way back to Catherine the Great. And then we have tiny little peninsula, Crimea. As you can see, just below Ukraine, there's Crimea, where they get all the electricity and water from Ukraine. And 60% are Russian speakers. So majority are Russian-based. And after the protests in February 2013, Putin regime marched into the Crimean Peninsula to protect ethnic Russians in Crimea and Russian military installations. And this was a violation for their territory. So they don't have independence, but they do have a government. And if they have independence, then the question is, where will they get water and electricity from? And what does the Crimean government want? They want to be part of the EU, which is unacceptable to Russia. So what did Russia do to Crimea? Russia gave Crimea to Ukraine, and now Russia just wants them back. They want Ukraine back. And Russia has been the dominant power in Ukraine for the past 200 years. And the Crimean Peninsula, it was conquered by Russia in the 18th century. So what does Russia want with Crimea? Well, Vladimir wants Crimea back, as they believe that they should be part of Russia again. So now that was just condensing over 2.5 centuries into 4 minutes.